Hi, very good morning. So, once again, welcome to the class of HRM. And today we are going to start with module number 3. So, let me take you through the contents of module 3. Here, as you can see on the slide, we are talking about the significance of training. So, there are basically two chapters that we are going to cover as a part of module number 3. One is training, and second one is performance management. So, what comes under training? Training, significance of training, we will be learning assessing training needs. We will be understanding designing formal training programs, implementing training program, evaluation of training program, methods of training and their benefits, introduction to performance appraisals, techniques, organizational demands and performance management, linkage of performance appraisal with motivation at work, and the case study. Now, this word training, I'm sure you are familiar with training. You know, you also somewhere might have seen or experienced training. In fact, this is called classroom training that you are doing because you're students. So students are also getting trained, right? You're getting trained for entering into the corporates, understanding the concepts and gaining some knowledge, building some skills, learning some skills for yourself. So this is going to help you. So in the same way, in the organization also, when an employee joins the organization, or when an employee is ongoing, is working in the organization for a longer period of time, completely depends, everybody need to go through the training program, because training is most important. Training is very, very important. Now, if you remember, we discussed this chapter called job analysis, and we saw that the information that we collect from job analysis, that will also help us in understanding the training needs. Because when you exactly know that in this particular job, in this particular role, these are the type of skills that the individual should possess, then what do is you try and train them, so that just to ensure that they possess required skills, and they have those competencies which are actually needed for a successful job. So the purpose of training is very clear. There is some requirement, there is some existing skills, and whatever gap is there, it tries and fulfill those gaps. So as you can, if you once again look at the module content of the module, then you can see significance of training, means why training is important. We are going to see that. We are going to assess training needs, in the organization. For example, when a person is joining, like a fresher or anybody who's joining, right, they go through a training program. A freshers definitely go through certain kind of training because they are completely new to the working culture. So they are trained, so that they at least understand the basics of the corporates, and whatever work they are supposed to do, that has to be clear. Even when a new joinee is there, like last lecture we discussed about the induction and orientation program, and we saw that how much important it is, to orient a new employee or take them through the induction process. And I told you in the last class also that they also, some organizations also organize some kind of training programs as a part of the induction programs. So whenever there is a fresher, a person who's joining the organization as a fresher, right, for them training objectives are very different. But for the other employees who are already working within the management should, on a regular basis try and assess the training needs. Why do you assess the training needs? Because sometimes what happens is, people are capable, employees are capable enough to perform a task in a better way, but just because they lack certain skills, that's why they are not able to do it. So then, if you should identify that there is some kind of training need. If you train these employees, their productivity will improve. So how do you do that? So there are so many ways in which you do is identify training needs. Even when you do performance appraisals, so appraisals means, No, end of the year, or even during the year, whenever you are trying to monitor the performance of the employees, which has now become easier with the help of human resource information system, because all the data is fed into the system. All you have to do is analyze the data, and use those reports, see what comes in the report. So whenever you try and assess the performance of the employees, you realize that okay, this person is not showing any kind of improvement, or the result is not great, the productivity, or let's say the production numbers are not so great. But imagine, just after giving the training to the employees, when they are actually building their developing their skills, or whenever they are seeing some kind of improvement in their competencies, then they will be able to perform better. So same employees who were not doing great before will start looking better. So their performance, in short, will improve. So how is this possible? It is possible only when you try and assess the training needs. You feel that, yeah, some kind of training is needed, and uh, then you organize the entire training program, and then finally you can evaluate their performance. Then the next topic over here is designing formal training programs. So how to design training programs, how to implement those training programs, what are the suitable training and development methods. All these things we will be discussing in this first chapter of training and development. There's no part, actually there is no development part, but I will just give you the meaning of development, just to help you understand what is the difference between training and what is the difference between development. And the next chapter is about performance appraisal. We've been talking about performance appraisal since class 1. So what is performance appraisals? What are the techniques or methods of performance appraisals? Organizations demands and performance appraisal, and how is your performance, how is it linked with your performance? How even motivation, how does motivation at work works with the performance appraisal? And then one of the case studies we will be discussing. So this is how we will go ahead. All right, so this is chapter number 8, training, and there is one introductory caselet that I would like to take you through. See, it is training and development at Tesco. So Tesco is the largest retailer in Britain and holds a third position in the world, having its stores in Europe, Asia, and the US. So you can imagine, right? Third position in the world means Tesco is one of the largest retail chain. Since the opening of its first store in 1929, the company has been constantly fulfilling the needs of its customers. The primary aim of Tesco is to keep customers happy by serving them in the best possible way. The company believes that if customers are happy, the company will have repeat business. Consequently, Tesco has expanded its business into various fields such as banking, insurance, electronics, electronic products, and telephone equipment, besides grocery products and general merchandise. So they are having their retail stores, but apart from there, it's a kind of conglomerate. So they are into different businesses like banking also, insurance also, some electronic goods also, telephonic equipments also, apart from grocery retail chain stores, right? So they are like that, a big organization, huge organization, in fact. Now, with the expansion of the company's business, its workforce has also increased approximately 2,80,000 employees in the UK and more than 4,60,000 across the globe. I mean, can you imagine this number? Some companies might have 10 employees, 20 employees, 100 employees, 500 employees, 5,000 employees, but here we are talking about 2,80,000 in UK and 460 across the globe. So you can imagine how big it is. To serve such a large customer base, the company needs flexible and well-trained staff to perform various store and non-store functions such as customer assistance. So because see, they are into so many different businesses, right? That's why their customer base is huge. And one thing we read in the beginning, that since its opening, the company has been constantly fulfilling the needs of its customers, because they believe their primary aim is to keep customers happy by serving them in the best possible way, because they believe that if customers are happy, company will have repeat business. So this is their philosophy, their aim, their goal. That's why, to serve such huge, such large customer base, what they need is well trained staff, to perform different functions, which are store functions and non store functions. What kind of functions? Like customer assistance, like warehouse management, back office activities, logistics, billing, etc. A lot of things. The company believes that its continuous growth depends on increased knowledge, improved skills, and job satisfaction of the employees. This is what company believes in. Now, Tesco has adopted a flexible and structured approach to training and development. The training and development practices of the company focus on individual employee needs. The company offers both on the job and off the job training to its employees. The on the job training includes learning by observing and following trained employees. See, sorry, before I move ahead, they basically the practices which they are following as a part of training and development initiative, right? What do? They focus on individual employee needs. Means not one single employee, but a group of people, of course, but individual employee needs. And they're offering two types of training. One is on the job and second one is off the job. What kind of on the job? On the job means you learn while you're working. So what kind of on the job training they are offering? First thing, learning by observing. You always observe your seniors, your colleagues, and you learn. And following trained employees, right? You try and follow the trained employees, always observe them. Next, coaching from the managers or designated colleagues. So somebody is going to coach, be your coach, they will keep guiding you while you are at work. Then mentoring from employees working at the same positions. Same positions means your own colleague can act as a mentor to you, because they are already experienced, they are working and they are doing better. So a mentor will be assigned who will be at the workplace. Your own colleague will always guide you. On the other hand, off the job training involves external courses by professional training institute or qualified Tesco training staff. So one way is external courses by these professionals, they're by professional training institutes. So for example, even in India also, IIMs are there, IITs are there. So people from the corporates, they go for short term courses to these professional training institutes and they learn certain skills. So same way for Tesco staff. On the job training is directly related to the job roles of the employees, while off the job training is concerned with developing communication skills, decision making skills, etc. of the employees. So when it is on the job, right, more of technical in nature, when it is on the job, then obviously you learn by seeing the employees working over there. Moving ahead, just like training, Tesco takes equal responsibility in the development of employees through its options program. So there is now something called options program. What is this? This program involves workshops on both leadership behavior and operating skills of the employees. Yeah, so we were also discussing like off the job also, so whenever off the job training was given to the employees, they were more concerned with developing their communication skills. Now see, because they are into so many different services and they want to ensure that customers should be satisfied, they should be happy. So for that, communication skill is most important. That's why developing communication skills, number one, and their decision making skills also, because sometimes they have to take like very quick decisions, understanding customers demands and their requirements. So that's why off the job training were mainly focused on that. And their option program was also involving the workshops on leadership behavior, how do you act as a good leader, and your operating skills also of the employees. Tesco also uses an informal approach to development where employees are asked to find out their strengths and weaknesses. Right? So that they can be assigned the work as per their strengths, right? You remember we have discussed this before also in the process of selection, in the process of placement, in the chapter of placement also, that whenever you are assigning some work to the employees, you should always understand and find out what are their strengths, what are they good at. If you give them the job which is according to their strengths and competencies, then automatically the results will be good. But if you assign them some kind of some work out of pressure which they are not even enjoying, then obviously their productivity will get affected. So that's why we always keep hearing right person at the right job for the right job at the right time. So right person at the right job. Now same thing is over here, right? Why they are focusing more on identifying the strengths and weakness of the employees, because they want to understand what are they good at, and if there are certain weaknesses which need to be addressed. Let's say for example, some employees they cannot handle customer complaints, they do not have so much of patience to listen to them and give them a positive or good response or a satisfactory response. For some people it's not possible because their nature is different. Let's say that for to deal with customers, you really need to have like a very cool temper, and you need to have like a lot of patience. But let's say that if customer gets aggressive, you as an employee gets all the more aggressive. So then you cannot be part of those job roles wherein you are a customer service representative. That's not possible. So if I am identifying that thing as a weakness of you, that you can't do it, and if I still put you as a customer service representative, then what will you do? You will never be able to justify the role that you are into. So that's why it is essential that you identify. So they do it, right? Employees are asked to find out about their strengths and weaknesses. And not only this, the company maintains a highly structured monitoring and evaluation of training and development programs. So it's highly monitored. And monitored as in, it's not that today I'm offering you training and then yeah, it's done. One formality is done. I had to show to the top management that as an HR, I have conducted like 2 training programs in a month. It's done. Not like that. They take training very seriously. They monitor. It's very structured. Structured means the entire program is very systematically planned and it's structured. And even the evaluation is done after the training to see how what was to understand pre-training and post-training differences. How it was before the training and how it was after the training. It prepares checklists that are used to measure the improvement in the job performance of the employees. Some checklists are prepared to measure the improvement in the job performance of the employees after the training program. So that's what I told you. The training and development practices of Tesco help in retaining customers, which is vital for its expansion and business growth. So these practices, they are able to retain the customers, and which is most important for any kind of business growth, because if you don't have repeat customers, that means you're not doing great. If people are happy with the service and the product, they will definitely come back to you. That's the goal of any business, right? Everybody wants that you have a repeat customer. In fact, that's a positive feedback for the services that you are offering. So this was the introductory case. I hope you have understood little bit about training, importance of training and methods of training, which was part of this case. Now we will start with the conceptual discussion of this chapter, training. Okay, now what is the concept of training? I will give you 1 minute. I request you to please go through the slide and then we can discuss. All right. Now, see, hiring skilled and qualified personnel is of paramount importance to any organization. However, to achieve success in the long run, it is essential for an organization to train and educate the employees to increase their knowledge base and develop new skills. So this is good for everyone. You might be having some skills, you might be having some knowledge, you might be having some competencies, that is your strength, but you cannot survive for a long time only with those skills. If you want to grow in your business or if you want to grow in your job, you definitely need to increase the knowledge base and you need to develop new skills, because as and how you move ahead, time will always change, competition will always increase, and there will be employees who will be coming with new skills, so then you will be easily replaced in the organization. That's why it is very important that you participate, either you participate yourself and educate yourself towards learning new skills, or the organization will always try and develop some kind of training program so that they can help you develop new skills. But all these things are possible only when you are willing to learn new skills, right? So this should be the idea. You should never be satisfied with the knowledge that you have, because there is always something more to learn for you to grow in your own area of specialization. So that's why, try and have that attitude, try and have that aim that, okay, this year I'm going to learn three new skills in my area. Even when I'm talking about new skills, in fact, companies like Infosys, I showed you the example before also, whenever they are recruiting people, they want to hire such kind of people who at least show the willingness, that yes, I will be learning new things. They want people who have the learnability, shows that kind of attitude, that yeah, capable of learning new skills. So they don't want people who always feel that yeah, I know everything, not like that. But if you have the learnability skills, if you feel that yeah, I will be right now, you might not be able to answer one question in the interview, that is okay. But if you are demonstrating such kind of attitude wherein you're very much willing to learn whatsoever, then definitely you will be selected for the new job. So it is important. Second point, this not only leads to the development of the employees but also increases their productivity, thereby leading to organizational effectiveness. So it's not just about the employees. Company is not doing you any favor by offering you training and helping you develop new skills. At the end, it is going to help the organization only improve its effectiveness. Point number 3, training is an organized process that involves teaching or providing instructions with an aim to improve the performance of recipients or help them to achieve a required level of knowledge or skill. So basically it's an organized process, because you go through certain steps to organize a training program. So that's why the aim is to improve the performance of the recipients or help them to achieve a required level of knowledge or skill. So this is the basic introduction part. Now if you just look at a very simple definition of what is training, then training is the process by which an employee acquires the necessary knowledge and skills to perform the job. It is the act of increasing the knowledge and skills of an employee for doing a particular job. So this is what training is. Read it once again and then we will move ahead. All right, moving ahead. So there is a quick difference between training and development. I told you that I'll let you know. So first we'll read the definition. Training is the formal and systematic modification of behavior through learning which occurs as a result of the education, instruction, development and planned experiences. So this is also a formal and systematic way of changing your behavior through learning, right? One first point, it is a short term process. So whenever you are organizing a training program, you always organize or participate in a training to learn with an objective. Basically it aims towards learning a particular skill or help you educate towards certain particular topic. So it is mostly short term process, right? Let's say it can be for 1 day, it can be for 2 days, it can be for 7 days, it can be for 3 months, but it is mainly structured and goal oriented. So it is a short term process. It refers to instruction in technical and mechanical problems. So mostly it's technical in nature because you're trying to learn some skills related to your functional areas. Third point, it is targeted in most cases for non-managerial personnel. Yeah, so mostly non-managerial skills you are seeing, you are trying to learn, and it is specific job related purpose. The purpose is mostly job related, because nobody will waste time in offering you training wherein somewhere in the future it will be useful to you. It doesn't happen. Mostly training is very much job oriented and goal oriented. Now when we're talking about development, it is an any learning activity which is directed towards future needs rather than the present needs, and which is concerned more with career growth than immediate performance. So training is definitely related to helping you improve the immediate performance, but when we are talking about development, trying to develop something, now when you're trying to develop something, it takes time. It changes the behavior, it takes time. It is mostly towards future needs. Now let's say that you are trying to take a manager through a program which is going to help that person take up all the more senior level position, because as in how you move ahead in the ladder, you will be requiring to learn certain skills. For example, you might you as in how you become a senior employee, you will be working in a team, you will be leading a team, so then you should know how to be a leader. So then you need to learn the all the you need to ensure that you know, at least have or you possess the qualities of a leader. So how you cannot learn like qualities of a leader. What is the quality of a leader? Quick decision, right? Team orientation. So these are not the things you learn in a day. You keep working towards it, you work on different projects, and you experience more, as in how you can develop these skills, right? These qualities you can develop. So that's why it's always future oriented. First point, it is a long term educational process. It refers to philosophical and theoretical educational concepts, mostly for managerial personnel. So development is mostly for managerial personnel because you are ready to take up senior level, managerial level positions, wherein you need to learn team building skills, you need to learn decision making skills, you need to have leadership qualities, right? So all these things are there, um, which you need to develop. So that's why it's you learn over a period of time. And last one, general knowledge purpose, of course. So this is the difference between training and development. One is short term, one is long term, one is goal oriented, job related, one is managerial, one is in general. Training is given to everyone. Development is mostly for managerial level personnel, right? And training mostly it's technical in nature. Development mostly you try and develop managerial qualities. Right? So both of them are different. Now, what is the significance of training? Why training? I'm sure by now you must have understood, but still go through the slide, please, and then we will discuss. All right. Now we are discussing significance of training. Training is required to make new employees aware of their job roles and duties, organizational processes and functions, right? I think this is very clear because we have already discussed induction and placement as chapters, and we have discussed this very point before, that it is required to make any new employee aware of their job role, what they are supposed to do, what duties they are supposed to fulfill, what organizational processes they are supposed to take care of, and what are the functions. Training leads to the building of efficient and effective teams. Building of efficient and effective teams, thereby enabling the organization to quickly respond to changes in the business environment. So you can respond to the changes only when you are trained, right? When you have effective teams. So training help you to build those teams. It motivates employees to work towards the accomplishment of organizational goals and objectives by providing them a clear picture of the organization's expectations. So training is always, organized with a goal, with a purpose, and those purpose and goal of training is obviously to help you achieve organizational goals. So employees will always be motivated, to work towards the accomplishment of organization goals, because company is giving them training, which helps them develop their skills, and so they will be more confident to work confidently towards the achievement of the objectives. It improves the knowledge of employees about their job roles, which leads to enhanced productivity and organizational effectiveness. So this is the significance of training. Some more points. Training focuses on developing the intellect and personality of employees so that they can perform effectively. Training inculcates a sense of team spirit, teamwork, and inter-team collaboration, which helps employees to adapt to team culture. So it also inculcates a sense of team spirit, teamwork, and inter-team collaboration. Training enables employees to identify their strengths and use them as well to recognize their weaknesses and correct them. So it also helps employees to identify their strengths and use them as well to recognize their weaknesses. So even after training, when you participate in the training, you as an employee also can realize what are your strengths, what are the things you can do better, and what is the area of improvement, what is the scope of improvement in your own work. So that clarity will also help you develop yourself. So that is how training is always useful. Now coming to the process of training. Step number 1. First thing what we do is reviewing organizational objectives. First thing that company or management need to do is first be very clear about what are the organizational objectives. Let's say that you want to become the biggest player in the market in your industry, right? Let's say that you are producing mobile phones. Now what you target is that in a period of 1 year you want to produce, let's say, 1 lakh devices. Now this is a very small number for a mobile phone, but let's say like that. In a period of 1 year you want to produce 1 lakh devices. This is your organizational objectives, and you know that by doing that you will be the highest producer in the country, let's say, right, among all the competitors. So be very clear about what are the organizational objectives. Now step number 2, what you need to do is you have to try and assess your training needs. Now in the next slide we will be discussing training need analysis, how to do that. We will be doing that, but at least understand that when first thing you need to do is assess if your employees need training needs. See, your goal is very clear. You have to produce 1 lakh mobile phone devices in 1 year. Now you need to see the strength of your employees. Do you have enough number of people in your organization who can help you achieve your goal? Right? Yes, you have. But are they capable enough to do it? No. They might need some training. If you help them develop their competencies, if you motivate them to work like with commitment, right? If you motivate them to work extra for extra working hours, or if you help them develop those skills, which will make the production faster and quicker and effective, then you will be achieving your goals. So whenever you try to assess the training needs, you realized, how can you assess the training needs? By observing. Maybe you can see that, yeah, my people are confused, or my people are very clear, they are what they're supposed to do. You can either observe, or you can ask them, do you need some kind of training? Do you think you are satisfied with the way you are working, or can management help you more? Do you have sufficient resources to fulfill your job, to perform your job, or is there is something which you need? So there are a number of ways in which you can assess the training needs, and by that you can compare it with the organizational objectives. After that, you can decide the training objectives. After assessing the training needs, if you realize that yes, training is needed, then you decide training objectives. Your objectives are very clear. You are trying, either you are trying to motivate the people, either you are trying to develop some behavioral qualities of your employees, or you're giving them some kind of technical training. You're teaching them some new technology, you are helping them learn some new machineries, something like that. Your idea is to keep your employees safe. You're teaching them some safety measures in their job, anything like that. So your objectives you have to decide. After that, you have to design the training program considering those objectives. If your objectives are such that you're trying to develop behavioral qualities of a person, then you might want to do it away from your job place, because at the job they are learning more technical aspects, but away from the workplace they are in a very fresh environment, open environment. There is no disturbance, there is no work pressure, but only idea is to learn those behavioral skills, because here you are trying to change the behavior of an individual. So you need to give them some kind of positive, happy environment. You need to give them some space which is needed, like no pressure, like that. So depending upon your objectives, you will design the training program. Whenever we are designing the training program, there are a lot of things that you need to discuss. Again, this also we will see. You will be talking about the location, you will be talking about the dates, you will be talking about number of days, right? You will be talking about who is going to be the trainer. You are going to see what are the resources which are needed. You will be seeing how are you going to evaluate the training program, right? So who will be participating in the training program, who are the attendees. So everything has to be decided. Most importantly, which methods of training you will be utilizing to offer the training to the employees. So that's how we are trying to design the training program. After that, implementing the training program. Finally, you will put that into practice. You have trainers, you have everything planned, your resources are there. Now what you're going to do is implement the training program. And after implementing, finally comes the evaluation part. That is also part of training, process of training. Evaluating the training, the program, because if you don't evaluate, you will not know whether the training was successful or not, whether we are able to see some changes in the employee behavior or not. If it is the same, then it is such a waste. See, for example, you sent employees outside to develop some team spirit. So team spirit is not something that you can theoretically explain to somebody that these are the points you need to consider. It doesn't work like that. You need to put them in such an environment wherein they actually learn to help each other, understand each other's expectations, understand how you can support each other, and that's how you can actually develop that attitude, that quality in you, right? Sometimes what happens is the organization take a group of people or send them for some adventurous exercises. Right? Send them, let's say, one of the companies sent the employees to a forest which was little dangerous. Now, in order to reach from one place to another place, it was not possible that you do it alone, but all you had to do was help each other, support each other, to overcome the danger which they were facing. So in this duration, in a day or two, in which they were, they were trying to cross the forest area, which was actually very dangerous, what they did was they started feeling for each other. They felt that, okay, no, that this person is my colleague, I have to help him out. And with that attitude, they really helped each other, and they could successfully reach somewhere, clear the desert, the forest area. So when they came back to the organization, they did not forget whatever they felt. How they became friendly, they started supporting each other, they started respecting each other. When they came back to the workplace, they continued, they were very happy to work in a team with the same team members, and they started working on a project together. So this is something which helped them change their behavior. This is something which develop a kind of team spirit in them. So it completely depends on what kind of training has to be given, what methods are you selecting, and then you evaluate at the end of the program, or maybe in a few days, and then observe whether you saw any behavioral changes in that individual or not. So this is how the entire process of training goes. Now, each step one by one we will discuss in detail. But once again, please go through the steps so you exactly know what we are discussing. Please go through the steps. All right, now we can move ahead. Now we are discussing training needs analysis, right? So how do you do training needs analysis? Quickly taking you through the steps. Step number 1, define organizational goals. First you define what are the organizational goals, then define relevant job behaviors. To pursue those goals, to achieve those goals, what kind of behavior you need. Then define required knowledge and skills. After defining what is the relevant job behavior, now you define what is the required knowledge and skills, right? And there are other arrows also that you can just see. And then finally you can plan the training, because you've already defined what is needed. Then you train. Now there are other parameters also. See, are there any non-training alternatives? Then you don't have to train the employees. Non-training alternatives can be, let's say that if you are finding that certain job behaviors are needed, certain behavior a person should possess to fulfill the job, but this person is not having enough knowledge and skills. So either you give training, or you hire new candidates who already possess those kind of training. That is an alternative. That is a non-training alternative, right? So when we are talking about training need analysis, all you have to do is first understand what is your requirement, and then see what do you have, what kind of skill inventory you have, and then if there is a gap, that means training is needed. So this is how you can do your training needs analysis. Now these are the sources from where you can find the information. How can you find out about the existing situation? How can you find out what you have? Right? You already know what do you want, what kind of skills and behaviors are needed. ये आपको पता है आपके जॉब में क्या चाहिए, पर आपके पास ऑलरेडी आपके एम्प्लॉयज़ की स्ट्रेंथ क्या है या कॉम्पिटेंसीज क्या है, ये कैसे पता चलेगी? सो दीज आर द सोर्सेज फ्रॉम विच यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड और आइडेंटिफाई. सी, परफॉर्मेंस इवैल्यूएशन. When you try and evaluate their performance yearly or twice in a year, then you get to know how are they performing. Their scores will tell us whether they are capable or not. Job analysis also can be one way, because through job analysis you can easily understand what is needed. Or then you can do some surveys, try and do some attitude surveys to understand what kind of attitude employees have, to understand whether they are positive, whether they are willing, whether they are committed, or they are not ready to learn new skills. So all these things help in understanding training needs. Then there is advisory panel also, panel members who which may consist of your supervisors, immediate supervisors, some of the team members. They can always advise if your team or if you require some kind of training. Then there is some ability test. We also discussed ability test. So if you're going through some kind of test, your scores will determine whether you need some kind of training or not. And then comes the feedback. Regular feedback by your colleagues, regular feedback by your seniors, by your supervisors also suggest that certain training is needed. You need some kind of training in the organization for the success of, or for the achievement of goals in the organization. So these are like training needs. This is how training need is done. These are the sources of training needs. Now there's an example over here. Now see, here you can see there is a list of tasks which are done. This is for the job of a paper cutting machine. Somebody who's working on the paper cutting machine, there are number of tasks. What you should know as an individual, आप जब job analysis करेंगे तो आपको exactly पता होगा कि इस job के अंदर person who is cutting the paper, how much that person has to do. Operate paper cutter, उसके अंदर क्या क्या करना है उनको. Start the motor, set cutting distance, place paper on the cutting table, push paper to the cutter, grasp safety release with left hand, grasp cutter release with right hand, simultaneously pull safety, wait for the cutter to retract paper and shut off. 10 steps है एक पेपर कटर को ऑपरेट करने के लिए, राइट. स्टार्ट करो, डिस्टेंस देखो, पेपर रखो, पुश करो, वापस लो, बंद करो. 10 things are there. How often you have to do? 4 times in a day. What is the quality and quantity and quality of performance? See, each step has, जितने भी steps है ना उसके सामने लिखा हुआ है कितनी सेफ्टी रखनी है, कितना टॉलरेंस लेवल है. देन अंडर व्हाट कंडीशन दिस हैज़ टू बी परफॉर्म. ऑपरेट पेपर कटर नॉइजी, तो एटलीस्ट जॉब एनालिसिस करेंगे तब पता होगा कि नॉइजी होगा. सो समबडी हु हैज़ दैट इशू कैन नॉट वर्क अंडर नॉइजी कंडीशंस, शुड नॉट बी हायर्ड. Then what kind of skills are needed to do this job, particularly specifically for each and every step? So you can see lift paper करना आना चाहिए, even रखना आना चाहिए, safety रखना आना चाहिए, दोनों हाथ को use करना आना चाहिए, like that. और अगर ये सीखना हो तो कहाँ पे सीख सकते हैं? ऑन द जॉब, ऑन द जॉब, ऑन द जॉब, मोस्टली ऑन द जॉब. ऑफ द जॉब क्या आपको सिखाएंगे? व्हेन यू एक्चुअली सी एंड व्हेन यू प्रैक्टिस देन यू लर्न, राइट. सो दिस इज वन एग्जाम्पल ऑफ हाउ वन जॉब इज डन entirely. Now when you are observing that somebody who's already doing is not doing it properly, that means they need training. If you don't give them training, then this is a very risky and dangerous job, right? A person's life is at threat. So that's why only those who are experienced, only those who are well versed with operating paper cutting machine, only they should be allowed to use this kind of machinery, right? So whenever you observe all these things, you can realize that okay, yeah, training is needed. So that's how training need assessment works. I hope there is no confusion. You can just take a minute and go through this thing. You can use this as an example if somewhere there is a need to write in the examination. Alright, let's move ahead. Now see some training. Training at Tata Motors is the next thing that we are going to discuss. So what kind of training? See, training is viewed as long-term investment in its HR. For Tata, I'm talking about, like, it is, they are considering it as a long-term investment. They conduct rigorous programs like in-house vocational training and apprenticeship. They try and organize structured training programs, rotational assignments, and cross-functional mobility programs to learn multiple tasks. Right? These are the type of training programs which they are offering to their employees. So this is how training at Tata Motors works. The next topic, before we start with the methods of training, is what are the factors which influence the effectiveness of training? So the effectiveness of training is dependent on what factors, right? What helps in the effectiveness of training? So there are some 5 points which we need to discuss. Point number 1, top management support. Most important. Sometimes what happens is, as an HR, because it is your duty and it's your role, you try and observe, or you see the results. In short, when you do training need assessment as an HR, you realize that there are a couple of employees or some departments which need some kind of training for the betterment of their for the better performance. And when they present the same thing to the top management might not agree, because any kind of training program needs budget, finance, and other resources for a successful training program. Now, let's say that every time you might not be able to have an in-house trainer. Sometimes you have to call an expert from outside. Now, if you are calling experts from outside, then obviously you have to pay a lot of money to the trainer. Make all the arrangements for them to stay, for them to travel, and beyond anything, you have to pay for the training program. Apart from that, within the organization, the number of employees who are joining the training program, their work will get affected, right? Their work will be disturbed. Who is going to replace them? Who is going to do their work? You cannot put production on hold. So considering all these things, sometimes top management try and ignore the training, and obviously the result is the productivity of the employees. But the point is that for success of any kind of training program, top management support is most important. Without the support of top management, it is difficult to organize the training program. Next one is acceptance of participants. Now management is very much willing to organize a training program or offer, and trainers are there, resources are, everything is there. But even the participant should be accepting the proposal of doing the training, taking the training, right? Now, mostly trainings are compulsory in nature. If management is deciding that employees need to be trained, then you will be offering them the training, taking them through the training programs. But it's like if employees are only not willing to learn new skills, or if they don't realize, or if they don't feel that we are lacking some skills, or we can actually learn or develop new skills, if that acceptance is not coming from the participants, then anyway training is a failure. So acceptance of participants is one of the factors which influence the effectiveness of the training program. Next one, adoption of continuous process. So training is not just one time activity. Of course, if there are certain changes or certain skills that you are teaching, then it becomes one time activity. For example, you have just introduced a new machinery in the business, in the organization, and you are training them to learn learn how to work on that machinery, then it's a different story. But otherwise, training is a continuous process, because everybody needs motivation on regular basis. Everybody need to keep learning new things in their own industry. That's why it is a continuous process. If if you are not adopting it as a continuous process, if the organization is not serious, if management is not serious, and if they don't have proper department or dedicated people to organize training on regular basis, then it is not going to be successful. After that, another factor which influence the effectiveness of training is technological advancement. Technology, we know that it keeps changing on daily basis. Nowadays, very frequent changes we see, so that affects your training. Because how are you going to utilize technology for training? Are you going to use video conferencing, or are you going to train somebody online through Zoom, or how are you going to do it? you know do you have enough trainers? Because again, to train somebody using the latest technology is also not an easy task. So how are you going to do that? So technological advancement is something which it affects the effectiveness of training program. And last one, type and time of training. Like, there are many other factors which influence the effectiveness, but this is also very important. Like, type of training program. Again, from the next slide, the next topic is methods of training. So, like in the beginning case also you saw, Tesco wala case also you saw that they were offering on the job training and they were offering off the job training. So what type of training you are selecting to give to the candidate also influence the effectiveness of training. Now let's say that you are trying to change some behaviors in the individual, and you are just offering the same training at the workplace in the same tedious and same environment, then employees will always be stuck with their work, right? If you don't give them sufficient time to learn new skills, if you don't create such environment for them to feel happy, to feel fresh, to feel positive and understand why they are doing it, if you don't create or offer such kind of things to the employees, then the training is going to be a waste for sure, right? So what type of training you are offering to the employees, all these things completely depend on what are the objectives of training, what is the goal of training, and after that the type of training and time of training are the factors which influence the effectiveness of training. So these are some of them. Apart from that, even resources of the training. Do you have enough resources? Do you have sufficient budget? Do you have trainers, like very good trainers? Because if trainers themselves don't know certain, don't possess those skills to train the employees or change their behavior, then obviously it is a waste. So when we are talking about resources, good trainers, good experts, they also influence the effectiveness of training. Your budget influence the effectiveness of training. So your schedules, your support from the seniors, top management, as well as the any seniors also affect the your training program. So these are the factors which influence the effectiveness of training program. Now the basics of training is over. We discussed importance of training, we discussed definition of training, we discussed process of training, training need assessment, we discussed which factors influence the effectiveness of training, we discussed. Now next that we are going to start is called the methods of training. That's the next topic which we are going to begin.